Okay, what we have here is a 2006 Hyundai Tucson. I had a no crank, no start, but I could hear the solenoid operating on the starter motor, so led me to believe it was probably the starter motor. So before we actually remove the starter motor, it's very important that we disconnect the negative of the battery. In this car it's down here. I've got it disconnected here. You can see. If you don't, when you come to remove the power to the starter motor, you may get some fireworks if you happen to short it to ground. The starter motor, location wise, is right at the front of the engine. Let's go down here. I have removed the belly pan, which just involves removing whatever bolts are left here, whatever is left, removing those and dropping the belly pan down. The starter motor is next to the oil filter. So the oil filter is here, and the starter motor is behind this cover, so it makes it hard to find because there's a cover over it. And what makes this job a little tricky is the fact that the exhaust from the manifold, from the front manifold, is in the way of this plate and the starter motor. You may be able to get the starter motor out without removing or dropping down the exhaust, but your life will be much easier if you drop down the exhaust. So here's the exhaust. This goes up here. So I just soaked the bolts in PB plaster, and there's two bolts where my fingers are holding that piece up, and then further back there's two bolts on the rear manifold. Luckily those were rusty, but they came open for me pretty easily, came undone. Now that we can drop that down, we're in a much easier position to do this job. Okay, so once you've got the exhaust down, you need to remove a few bolts holding this plate on. So there's one bolt there, another one is, up here, and then there's one on the back. It's a nut that's here. Okay, so let's undo this. Okay, now we can remove this cover. That reveals the starter motor. Okay, removing the starter motor involves removing two bolts. There's a bottom bolt here, and there's an upper nut on this stud up here. You can see the stud up there. Okay, once the bolts holding the starter motor onto the transmission casing have been removed, next we want to remove the connectors from the starter motor. There's a big wire and a skinny wire. So the big wire is attached here. I've taken it off now, but it goes on this terminal, so undo that. And then the skinny wire, which is this one, is just on a connector just up above here. And that's pretty easy to get off. Maybe you might need a screwdriver to pry it off a bit, because it can be stuck on there like mine was. Okay, so now that we've got it, now you've got it connected, disconnected, you can drop the starter motor down. Okay, there it is. That's the starter motor out.